All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Shellis, with Nicholas Humphrey, soon to be Dr. Nicholas Humphrey. And it's great to see you. We have a packed show. Welcome, everyone. We are live tonight on YouTube, Facebook, Substack, and X. So we've got four different places. So if Nick freezes, he's coming back out, coming back in. I'm pretty sure I have enough. So what's going on, Nick?
Nothing much. I'm glad to be back. How you doing?
I'm busy, just very busy as usual. But it's great to
Yeah,
see
so am I.
you. I know
Yeah,
that
so am
you've
I.
got, yeah,
So,
tell us about what's happening with your before we even get into all the stuff we're talking about tonight. Tell us what's going on with your studies and yeah,
yeah,
what's going on?
yeah. I'm probably a couple months away from defending my dissertation and completing the doctoral degree. Yeah, very,
Very
very tired.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I had some personal stuff in the past like year that kind of set me back in terms of timing, and then my advisor had some personal stuff that she had to deal with, so
Oh.
it was kind of on both our ends. But now we came together, and where I've been working on the paper. I'm almost done with a draft of the entire document, so an entire dissertation.
That's
Yeah, so
fantastic. So when you do and you finish it, will we be able to do a show on what you did?
sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that
Yeah.
would be interesting. Yeah,
I mean, tell
yeah.
everybody what you're actually you don't have to you don't have to give it away, but tell us about what your studies were because there are some new people that may not know you, Nicholas Humphrey.
Yeah, yeah. So my field is emergency management, the study of disasters, how society copes with disasters, and there's four functional areas in emergency management: preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. And my focus in my dissertation was on response, emergency management response, and specifically response to warnings. And in my case, I didn't do a research study on individuals' response to warnings. I did a study of a particular stakeholder group, National Weather Service meteorologists, and their knowledge of what they know about how individuals respond to
Oh,
warnings. Yeah, so I interviewed 21
that's
National Weather Service
cool.
meteorologists for that study, and asked them how people typically respond to tornado warnings, what goes into protective decision making, and then the implementation of protective action. So I asked them those questions, and the point of it wasn't just to assess their knowledge and it, compare it to what we know about how people respond to warnings. It was actually to figure out like how they employ that knowledge into their communication approach to tornado warnings. So how do they communicate with the public? How do they communicate with other stakeholder groups and stuff like that? So
This is
yeah,
good
yeah,
stuff. Oh man, that'll be a
yeah.
good show, actually. Really interesting. So, Nick, I would say there's five things in disaster management. I would say the fifth one, or maybe even the first one, would be Donald Trump. Sorry, couldn't help myself. I mean, couldn't help myself. Okay, we had to do it.
Yeah,
Had to do
yeah,
it.
he's kind of a
Had to do it.
disaster in himself. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
here we are.
Well,
I know.
we're in a war now. That's not really a
Yeah.
war, apparently.
I know, right? It's not a war. As long
Yeah,
as you and I have been together doing this, what is it, 10 years almost? It's like, did we ever think that things would be quite this bad?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I know.
I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to even think about it. It's just, it's making me crazy. I have to think of something here. Wait a minute. Okay. So
Mhm.
anyway, tonight we have a lot to go through. We're going to go through maybe start with a blue ocean event and which is Arctic ice thinning or going away at the Arctic, not totally leaving. People have asked about this and they want to know, and there's some people that are in this audience that are very sophisticated and understand what it is. There are some people that may not, so I'll just go over really quickly with my notes that I pulled together because I've had notes on this in my notes for 100 years. So first of all, it's Arctic sea ice is the extent, and it falls below 1 million square kilometers, which 1 million square kilometers is a lot of land. I mean, it's a lot of territory. It's very big territory. I mean, it's really big up there. I'm going to show you some
Mhm.
slides, and it usually happens at the end of the summer, which is the melt season. Okay, so at that point, if it happens, they say it's ice free, but it's not really ice free because there's always some ice left. And that's the
Yeah, it's
thicker
like
ice. Yeah.
effectively ice free,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah.
Near Greenland and the Canadian Arctic, there's still ice. But so
Hmm.
people, one of the things when I said I was going to have you on and we were going to maybe talk about this was, okay, do you think it's going to happen, Nick? Do you think it's going to happen? So I'm thinking, well, okay, I know you've been working on your stuff. So I pulled together and the three different viewpoints. There's different viewpoints, and we always have Sam Carana and the Arctic blog on Facebook, and then we have the conventional scientists and the peer-reviewed science. Most of them say, okay, about 2030, maybe near 2030, but it's already 2026.
Yeah.
And as I was getting ready for the show, I was looking at Paul Beckwith, who coined Blue Ocean Event. I was looking at all these videos he's done over all the years. And it's just amazing to see that we could be that close. But, it's first of all, if it's later, it's because there's still the multi-year ice. There's the natural variability that could
Mhm.
actually speed or slow. We don't know because you don't know that from year to year. And it happens, it's not a crash, it happens in steps, right? Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some of the newer studies, and this is where I'm going to have you jump in, is with the El Nino. But this research could happen, it could happen because we could have a very warm summer, right? We could have very
Right.
strong ocean heat. And we know from the shows with Jim how Atlantification has happened in the Arctic and the warm water comes up from the bottom and it melts the ice from the bottom because the thickness is not there. We could have persistent storms. We could have low starting ice thickness. So from this year. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what what caused the really like bad year? The last like I think the record is still the record for lowest sea ice extent was 2012. What caused that was a series of storms in the late autumn period or late summer, early autumn
Yeah.
that just went up there and just from the Atlantic, I believe, and just went up there and destroyed the sea ice just massively, and so it left this what remained in 2012 was the multi-year ice that wasn't destroyed by the storms. Nowadays, you don't really have very much multi-year ice left in the
No.
Arctic. Um, it's just thinned out and it's very hard to find. And I mean, even in the dead of winter, I know back in like I think it was back in 2018, 2019, we were talking about cracks in the ice and near Greenland in the middle of winter when you
Yep.
had big storms coming up from the Atlantic with very warm air and turbulent waters, and it just breaks up that ice. And so that might be, the blue ocean event, might be a situation where you just get a combination of different things. You get abnormally warm ocean water into the area in the middle of the season, melt season. You might get late summer, unusually strong storms from the ocean, from the Atlantic Ocean that pummel the ice, and a series of different things that come together that cause it to to set a new record, and that record could be below a million, square kilometers. It might not be, but it
Right.
could set a new record. I forget what the extent was in 2012, but it was bad back then.
Yeah,
So
it was
yeah,
definitely different. It was definitely, I
yeah,
remember. I remember.
yeah.
So you think that, well, it is, I mean, we know that it's melting 3 to 4 times faster than the global average it is. And
Yeah,
we're looking, do you think that there's going to be a strong El Nino? I mean, we have stuff we can pull up. We have all kinds of stuff, but what do you, off the top of your head, knowing what you know, because it seems to be the conventional wisdom.
yeah. I mean, it's the interesting thing is the past, and we'll go over the acceleration and warming and stuff that's been found in some of these studies and stuff recent months, but um, it seems like the El Ninos are getting very are are having more are packing more of a punch in terms of like accelerating the global average temperature rise and everything than they used to, and the La Ninas don't really do very much to cool the planet anymore. Like I remember, I mean,
Right?
I turned 42 in May. I remember the
Oh
El Nino of
man.
1997. I remember the El Nino of 1997, and I was tracking weather and climate stuff way back in 1997. And I remember it being a big deal, but then the El Nino ended, and the planet actually cooled a little bit. That doesn't really happen anymore. It just doesn't really
Wow.
happen anymore. The La Ninas don't really do very much anymore. Both the El Ninos and the La Ninas have gotten warmer because of global warming. So
That, yes. Yep,
mhm.
absolutely. Now, I did read in early 2026 that the recent monitoring says that we are the ice extent, now not the thickness right now. I'm reading about it was the ice extent was near historically low. And that with the it's going to delay delayed the refreezing and the carrot sea and all that. So I actually
Yeah,
have some stuff. So maybe we'll show some of the graphs we have. What do you think? Want to show
sure.
some of the graphs we have? I think it would be fun to show some of the graphics. All right, the first one we'll look at is this. This is actually, there's the Arctic. And there we are all the way down. I don't know if you can see my pointer, guys. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. I can never figure out why that happens. But you see in the middle, there's the Arctic. And it looks like this is actually from
Uh,
March 4th, 2026. This is new. This is
yeah,
that's a pretty
two me-
spooky looking graph.
yeah, 2 meter temperature anomaly. So it's very warm in the Arctic, apparently, relative to
Yeah.
normal.
No
Yeah,
kidding. No
yeah,
kidding. It is. It
uh,
sure is.
yeah,
Yeah. So we have that, and then I'm going to show you guys. See, this is what the clouds look like up there. But you see right now, you see the opening, you see the open water in
hmm
it, but this is what it looks like with cloud covering. It's pretty cool looking, isn't it? But it's
yeah,
scary. And then this is the Laptev Sea. This is where it all happens. The Kara Sea, the East Siberian Sea, and I've got the Laptev. Now in the Laptev, they call it uh, the Laptev is the Arctic ice's factory. That's kind of what the Laptev is, and it
mm,
forms. I wish I had a pointer. It forms across that East Siberian coast you see there, and winds.
yeah,
The wind pushes it from the into the central Arctic, and then it thickens to become part of the multi-year ice. But the multi-year ice is actually getting, you know,
thinner.
worse.
Yeah,
Yeah, the last decade. But the last decade we've had delayed freezing. And some years the Laptev Sea stayed ice free into November or December, which was
yeah,
almost unheard of. And then the warm water, like Jim always talks about, the intrusions with the Atlantic water, which is now reaching farther into this Arctic basin, and thinner reported ice. So the ice that forms is younger and thinner. and it melts easy. And then when it drifts into that central Arctic, so scientists call it the Laptev part, the gatekeeper for the Arctic ice, the sea ice stability. It's really very interesting. And then the Kara,
Yeah.
that's been warming. The Arctic water comes in. Now you see, guys, where the Barents Sea is. I have another one. Wait, let me see if I have the Barents Sea. No. All right, let's go back there. We'll go back to the lap tab and then just show you how it's at the Kara Sea on the left side is where the Atlantification happens because the
Yeah.
form it's so much weaker. So this is what where it's this is where it all happens. And remember how we used to say that, Nick? What happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. Well, what's
Yeah.
going to happen? See how this one, the sea surface temperatures?
Yeah.
What happens with that?
Well, looks like the looking at the anomalies. Okay, it's seasonal for August, September, October, and of course it's very much
Yeah.
above normal in the Arctic. Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
what does that cause meteorologically?
well, I mean, when you get um, progressive loss of ice in the Arctic and abnormally warm temperatures, that can translate to warmer temperatures on land, and it's kind of like a feedback. So you gets warmer in the land Arctic when you have open ocean and stuff, and it can also cause storms to be more violent with more evaporation that leads to more precipitation. Bigger waves lead to more, just because of a lack of ice to control the wave action. You can get big waves and terrible erosion. I mean, there's communities in Alaska that are dealing with indigenous communities that are moving away from the coast because the coast is being eaten by the sea. So I mean, because of the loss of ice, because you get that wind blowing on the open ocean instead of the flat ice, it causes all that huge wave action. So I
Mm,
mean,
mm, mm,
you
mm.
saw a lot of cascading impacts, not just to the atmosphere, but to the ocean atmosphere interface,
Yeah.
with as far as the erosion goes, and then the effects on land from the erosion to abnormally warmer temperatures on land. So yeah, there's a lot of cascading impacts.
Yep, and that's going to lead to things we're going to see here this summer because we're going to segue from here. We're going to segue, but I wanted to show. Remember, we talked about this one. This is September. This will be in September 26th. This could be the sea ice concentration. Look at that.
Yeah,
The
30.
warmth.
Yeah,
You want me to make
very
it bigger?
abnormal.
I make
Yeah,
it bigger. I make it bigger. Very abnormal. This is the concentration, the anomalies. Warmer there, and then this is where the contour. See
oh,
the
15% concentration contours. Okay, so yeah, it's very abnormally probably thin ice that's not as that has a lot of open water in between the pieces of ice, the lower concentration. So yeah, yeah,
fun ahead. Fun
yeah,
ahead. And that's
yeah,
why, Elliot likes to make his and show us this is the volume. Now, the volume, obviously, thickness, extent, and volume. And the volume, if you see the red line, it's going up, but we haven't gone anywhere yet. Going up
yeah,
a little bit, a little bit. Elliot
yeah,
had on his X account, he was talking about the near term human extinction. People are definitely thinking there's going to be a blue ocean event. And he says it's 15 to 1. But this is it. This is the last ice area. This is where it'll be. You see, there's the Bering, the Chukchi, the Barents. This is where it all happens, guys. This is
mhm,
it. This is it. The Arctic has lost like 70 to 80% of its sea ice volume since the 80s. That's the volume he was talking about. The volume there. Oops. Close this one. The volume. So that's what's happened there. And 2000s, in the 2000s, the rapid thinning began, and then
Hmm.
it's thin. 2010s to the 20s, we're seeing it's mostly thin seasonal ice. So that Arctic ice pack is more fragile than it's ever been. So we have, it's and then there's the feedback loops, which you probably talk about, the ocean heat, and the ice mobility, and the Atlantification, which we talked about already. So, well, what's the key takeaway here, Nick? Give it to us. Boy.
Well, I mean, the loss of ice, in the Arctic, has a lot of cascading impacts on the rest of the planet, and maybe particularly the northern hemisphere. You get more, you get Atlantification, you get more powerful storms, storm surges, um, water erosion, land erosion. I mean, you get lower albedo, which causes the
Yep.
Arctic to warm even faster.
Jet stream.
Um, yeah, the altered jet stream patterns,
Yep.
particularly. I mean, both in the summer and the winter, it can have effects. You can have more heat domes in the summer,
Yep.
and then in the winter, you get disruptions in the jet stream that um, cause more release of Arctic air from the Arctic into the mid latitudes. And of course, the when you get that process where you get Arctic outbreaks in the mid latitudes, the heat has to go somewhere from the mid latitudes and it goes up into the Arctic to replace
Lovely.
the cold air that was lost. So you get a lot of crazy effects from the progressive loss of sea ice in the Arctic.
Now, everybody talks about AMOC. Now, if the AMOC slowed dramatically, then all bets are off with a blue ocean event, because if the AMOC slows, then then what happens? North America, the Eastern North America and Europe, they get colder. It gets colder in
Yeah,
those areas. So this
yeah.
is
So it's
yeah,
a weird little
crapshoot.
phenomenon, but it would cause yeah, it would cause particularly the northern and northeastern U.S. to get much colder, even more dramatic in Europe, western and northern Europe would get dramatically colder. So you'd actually have probably an expansion of sea ice in that region, which, for those regions, you would think that would be good, but it could cause dramatic cooling at least to or below pre industrial temperatures. So you have this huge flip within a matter of years, from one climate regime to another climate regime after you just had global warming causing all this
Yes.
warming temperatures, and then your crops and your agriculture that you're trying to adapt to the climate changes can't adapt to such rapid swings in temperature. And then meanwhile, the tropics would warm, and you'd have altered rainfall patterns in the tropics too from an AMOC shift. Um, um, so yeah, it would be that would be a rather crazy climate phenomenon if that
Yeah.
were to occur. Yeah.
Yep, it could be. So we have AMOC and we have a blue ocean event. Now we're going to segue to the heating issue. We have some articles to show you guys. I guess we could pull them up. We're not going to necessarily read them, but it's out there, and particularly well, I actually I don't think I'm going to read this whole one, but this was in Reddit, and I thought it was interesting to show because it was just about what we were talking about, the Arctic ice refreeze. All the links will be in the show notes. This was in late January, and why. This tells you why the recovery is slowing for the extent. In January 26th, it's tracking the lowest levels ever recorded this year, and we still do have satellite monitoring. Trump administration hasn't destroyed everything yet, and
Hmm.
the National Snow and Ice Data Center still has some information here. Thank you, but it January always says here that it normally marks a phase of rapid winter refreezing across the Arctic Ocean, yet current measurements show ice growth lagging historical averages. This matters now because the strength of winter recovery plays a critical role in determining how resilient the ice pack will be headed into the next season. So, this, if you guys are interested in reading this one, it'll be in the show notes again, like I said. But this image was 2024 actually, and what it showed was the Arctic summer minimum from September 24. But it's a so I like I said, I don't want to read this whole thing because we're going to move on, and that just kind of closes up the last one we were talking about. But here we have the Guardian. And Nick's going to talk about this article. This is the research. This is the research that accompanies it. So take it away, Nick.
So, key takeaway is that the scientists have found that global warming since the mid 2010s or so, leading up to now, is accelerated. It used to be, in the 1980s, 90s, 2000s to the mid 2010s, the global average temperature was rising approximately about zero point 0.2 Celsius per decade,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't sound like a lot, but on a global scale, that's fast. It's extremely, extremely fast compared to historic global warming, normal global warming, say after the ice age or something, which we'd have warming uh, of that order over thousands of years. You're having it occur per decade now. Um, the study suggests that global warming is actually accelerated and now is approaching zero point 0.4 C per decade, which is ridiculously fast, and suggesting that global warming is not only getting worse, it's getting worse faster, and we're approaching these supposed guardrails, like 1.5 C, above pre-industrial levels very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's basically the key takeaway. Because I mean, everyone, all these optimistic scientists are saying that we can do things to stop the relentless, acceleration or relentless growth in climate change, but it becomes harder when it's accelerating on you.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I
And this
know.
is what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I know Professor James. Was it James Hansen?
Oh, yeah. He has a new
Yeah,
piece in Substack.
he was the first, really the first to a few years ago to point out that it appeared global warming was accelerating since the mid 2010s. And at first, a lot of scientists, scoffed at that, didn't think it was the reality. But of course, scientists, being inquisitive investigators, decided, a lot of them decided to investigate his thoughts on it, and they came to the same conclusions. So now most of the climate scientists seem to agree that yes, global warming in the past 10, 12 years has in fact accelerated, and accelerated significantly. Um, so he's, as usual, he's the first on the
Yeah.
scene.
He's the guy.
Yeah, yeah,
And he was talking about the I was reading his article, talk about the aerosols, and as
yeah,
we lose the aerosols, we're not cooling, it's not giving us the cooling that we need. So
yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I mean that's the aerosol masking effect, that people have talked about as being sort of a mask of masking global warming's true impact.
Yeah.
Because aerosols, I think, like sulfur dioxide and other gases like that, especially sulfur-based gases, they reflect sunlight, so you don't get the sunlight, as much energy, solar energy, shortwave solar energy reaching the surface, producing long wave radiation from the surface that then gets trapped and results in the planet heating up. You get less of that with the aerosols. Um, but since I think 2020, we had both COVID-19 shutdowns and also changes in international, I think, laws or policies on aerosols
Mm-hmm.
in shipping in ships. That's caused the aerosols to drop off, and so now we might be seeing more of the true impact of our carbon emissions in the atmosphere on the heating of the planet. So it could be a combination of aerosols. It could also be a combination of just other issues with the planet. Certain carbon sinks are failing. The oceans aren't absorbing as much carbon as they used to. The forests, boreal forests, tropical rainforests aren't absorbing as much carbon. And there's some parts of the planet that are becoming net emitters of carbon now.
Yep.
And so all of that may also be contributing to this acceleration in global warming. So yeah, yeah,
And here we have the temperature anomalies right here, and it's all the different organizations from ERA5, Berkeley, HAD, CRU, NOAA, NASA, and everything, as always, is going up.
yeah,
You think we're
yeah.
going to hit 2.0 in this decade? What do you think?
Um, Probably. Well, let me qualify that. In a single year, um, maybe in the next 10 years, we might hit it in a single year in terms of like on average in a half a decade to a decade average. That might not be until like 2040 or something, but certainly 1.5 we're already hitting year to year right now. And
Right.
then in the most climate scientists look at like 5, 10 year averages, and that could be 2030 or so, when we hit 1.5 relative to pre-industrial on a 5 to 10 year average, which would which basically would mean that we're seeing more impacts in terms of damage to coral reefs, tropical coral reefs, damage to um, populations of birds. I mean, I didn't share it with you, but I saw a story I posted on my uh, Facebook weather page like a week or so ago or something. It
You
was
want me to
on
pull it up?
bird. You probably won't be able to find it that
Okay.
quickly,
Okay.
but it talked about bird populations. I think in the North America falling off because partly because of climate change, and also probably impacts for like insecticides, and in the in other pollution issues too. But yeah, I mean it's insects, birds, other animals that depend on um, um, balance of ecosystems. And when your ecosystems are getting damaged or destroyed by rapid heating of the planet, then that affects animals and ultimately humans too. So yeah,
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you did send me this article on the insects, the tropical insects to their heat limit. And people don't always think about that, how important these insects are to our whole biosphere, to everything. So why don't you talk about this one? What made you
yeah,
what made you think to bring this one?
yeah. I just say it was talking about insects in the Amazon, which I thought was, well, I mean, Amazon's one of the most biodiverse parts of the planet, and the that part of the world I know has been a concern for a few decades now on climate change, because there's the threat that climate change, when it gets to like 2.5, 3 degrees, it could start to turn the Amazon rainforest into a savanna, and which would be devastating to the wildlife in that area. But the Amazon's getting hit by climate change, by deforestation, by pollution, all these things combining, and so it can lead to the extinction of many of the insects in that region, especially as this article points out, um, that it maybe just get too hot for many of the insects to survive
Mm,
in the tropics and particularly the Amazon. And I mean, I know I know the scientists have concerned themselves with human impacts in terms of
mm-hmm,
the heat in the tropics, becoming too hot to live in the tropics eventually when you start getting
mm,
warming at 2 to 3 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial globally.
right.
But of course, humans are going to get hit, insects are going to get hit, other mammals, and so all of that, fish in the ocean that's warming. So all of that combined leads to these cascading impacts on the environment, on society, ability to survive in those regions. So
Well, this was an interesting article. It'll be in the show notes too. I had the graph put up because, people don't think about all of these different kinds of insects and the insect families that they are and how important they are to each and every. They're important to different countries. They're important to the wildlife. They're important to, especially for even in the United States, anywhere that you garden for pollinating and pollinators. But this is an interesting one, so I'm glad that you brought this one up.
yeah, yeah.
Well, then we'll move on to the World Meteorological Organization, and here we have ENSO neutral conditions expected as La Nina fades, but El Nino chances rise. And both of these, we had a PowerPoint presentation. And ENSO, what you want to give us a little overview on this one?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, there's been a weak La Nina event. So El Nino Southern Oscillations, basically a variability and in the atmosphere, the tropics and the Pacific, both the atmosphere and the ocean. You get increasing trade winds, easterly trade winds, usually during a La Nina event that causes upwelling of colder water on the Pacific coast of like Central America, and that produces abnormally colder waters in the Pacific, Eastern Central Pacific Sea. That's the La Nina event, and then when those trade winds kind of die down, you can get a neutral event, and then if they really slack off, then you'll get abnormally warm water building from the western Pacific into the central and eastern Pacific, and you get El Nino, and it changes those changes in the ocean temperatures
Mm-hmm.
cause responses in the atmosphere with changes in pressure across the Pacific and things like that. And that's how they measure El Nino. How bad El Nino is not my specialization, so I don't know every
Right.
little detail.
No,
Jim would
we
Jim
don't
would
have.
know it, but that's
That's
basically
okay.
the gist of it. So and so we've been in a so what they consider a weak La Nina, and that's ending, coming to an end soon, and we'll be in neutral conditions, which is sort of just in between those two states. And then yeah, there's some of the long range models which I've heard are a little harder to pin down, but they suggest that El Nino could return later, maybe later this year, and so.
I have a question. There's the in the United States already. There's tornadoes, and all the tornado chasers are already out. They're already out. It's is
Yeah.
this abnormal that they're out already in the Midwest, Oklahoma, and all that I've seen them out?
Um, Not. It's a little unusual, maybe, for to see tornadoes in early March in say Michigan, and I know there was a. I actually before I came on, I saw that there was a damaging tornado in Michigan. A couple towns were hit
Yeah.
in Michigan this evening or this afternoon, and there may have been some fatalities. So um, I know. Michigan, Wisconsin, those areas, it is kind of unusual for say Oklahoma, especially Alabama, Mississippi, the deep south. It's not quite as unusual to see tornadoes down there this time of year um, in March. March is starting
Okay.
to start to you start to get more spring like weather down south, so it tends to get more active down there. I know Nebraska, where I used to live before I moved up here, was seeing some severe storms in like Lincoln and Omaha this evening. So yeah, it's
Ooh.
a little more normal down there. A little unusual get it up here, or say Michigan, Wisconsin this time of year. But yeah.
So, you have any forecast for what you think is going to happen this year? Since we have experienced the last few couple of warm years, what do you think for tornado season this year?
Um, I've never been too good at. I remember taking long range for and learning about like climate teleconnections, which are like large scale, like long range, long scale projections based on patterns in the atmosphere. I remember learning about those when in my master's degree in geosciences at Mississippi State. I never was very good at that because I always cared more about the short term forecasting. But um, I think with I think with La Ninas, there's been a tendency to have um, more prolific tornado seasons during La Nina periods than
Yeah.
El Nino periods. It has to something that has to do with the way the jet stream changes, and you get more wind shear and more troughs of low pressure
Hmm.
that come through that bring in more moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and then you get the wind shear that produces the spin that you need for tornadoes, for severe thunderstorms that can produce tornadoes. Like 1999 was a prolific year for tornadoes. That was the famous May 3rd, 1999 tornado in Oklahoma City that caused
Oh
all that
yeah.
devastation in the Oklahoma City metro area. That was during La Nina. And then I think I I'm not sure if 2011 was a La Nina year. That was a prolific tornado year. That's when we had the severe weather super outbreak in Alabama and Mississippi and throughout the South. Um, so yeah, you can get the La Ninas can can have some favorability, I think, towards more tornado days, more tornado outbreaks. So it
Wow.
might be something to watch out for this spring, even though La Nina is fading away. You can get those that kind of
Okay.
atmospheric effects.
Thanks. I was wondering. I'm expecting to have a pretty hot summer. I mean, we had a ridiculously cold
Hmm.
winter here. I mean, ridiculously cold. It was in the it was plunging Arctic weather here. Sometimes it was colder here than it was at Jim's. He lives in Fairbanks. So I check the weather. I have where all of you live. And I can say, okay, I know what's Nick going through. I know what Jim's going through, what Jen's going through, who I spoke to the other day, and she says hi to everybody. Um, uh,
Well,
and
and here in Fargo, it was in the mid 20s today, with freezing drizzle and
whoosh,
issues with ice and stuff like that. But Sunday, it's supposed to be 61.
weather whiplash. Well, in
Yeah,
Florida, they were bitching because it was too hot. It was like 80.
yeah,
And
they're
so,
getting drought and heat down there in Florida.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
And then, yeah. And then there's the Middle East. And what really gets me about how we have to assault Tehran, why we are doing this to Tehran, to the people there, when they were just going through drought and
yeah,
water
water
shortages.
crisis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
water crisis. I mean, and we're bombing hospitals and all. Do you know much about the weather patterns that go through the Middle East?
Not. I've never really tracked the Middle East weather very often. I know that it gets obviously it gets very hot in the summer. I know it's getting hotter there because of climate change,
Yeah.
and then they're dealing with increasingly more difficulty with water and food, and
Right.
because a lot of the food has to be that they depend on for those populations, growing populations in the Middle East, or they have to import the food, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have heard about what was going on in Tehran,
It was
as far
awful.
as the water shortages, and I know the government of Iran before the war was talking about, oh, we gotta have to move the capital and all this
Yeah, and
stuff. Yeah, I
people.
mean, it's just like, yeah,
Just
and
insult to injury, but we're going to. I just don't. I don't think it portends well for a lot of people in the Middle East, and it's just a really unfortunately sick situation.
yeah, I mean, the one of the things I'm reminded of is that the hotter it gets, the more violence there is. And that might be the same thing on a global scale. As climate change is advances and the planet gets warmer, you may see as you see more impacts to water, food, and agriculture production and other things, people are going to start getting more violent, especially when they start getting more immigrants or migrants from places where it's getting too hot to live.
Right. Right.
Yeah, then you're going to have all this conflict because a lot of people aren't going to be friendly to those people. It's already happening. I mean, it's
Yeah.
happening in Europe, it's
North.
happening in North America, in the United States, it's happening in, like I said, in Europe with Africans coming across the Mediterranean. They get turned away, or they're dealing with situations. I remember during the Syrian civil war
Right.
10 years ago,
Oh.
there were a lot of states in the U.S. and communities in the U.S. that did not want to accept Syrian immigrants, even though they're going away from fighting. That includes U.S.'s enemies. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we don't want the Syrians here. It's like, come
I
on,
remember.
are you kidding
I
me?
know. I
Yeah,
know. Yep.
yeah,
It is quite a difficult situation, but I'm just glad you're here with me. Thank
yeah.
you. And I'm really proud of you that you're doing so well. So, does anybody have questions out there? I mean, we have. I let me just reach out and thanks to Kim and Alex, the moderators, and Bella's here and Looney Tunes. Thank you guys for being moderators. And I want to say hi to. I see Matt's with us from New Zealand, sweetheart. Hi, Matt. Hi, Matt. And hi, Karen Singing Way. It is she's sick. I'm so sorry, sweetie. You're sick. And Carrie and Costly. We had a troll in the chat. Finally got rid of him. Dominic. It was in all caps. So we had an asshole who thought he was better than everybody. Finally, he said Americans suck. Well, none of us are going to disagree with that, even if we are Americans. There are a lot of Americans that suck, 70 million of them that voted for the orange turn. And Orb
Yeah.
Fruber, hey, yeah, it's great to see all of you. No questions for Nick while he's here. You don't want to ask him anything about maybe about disaster management or how about your plans? Are there any irons in the fire for postdoc work?
Oh well, I mean,
Hi, Lucy.
postdocs are kind of annoying because they don't last forever,
Right.
and I mean they're a good springboard for other things. So yeah, people I know some PhD people that have done or trying to pursue postdocs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough peer reviewed articles to my name yet. I have one. There's one peer reviewed article that I've helped. Um, that I've helped
Let me. While this is up, I
to help.
gotta let me fix it because I haven't.
Uh,
Go ahead, talk.
that's funny. I was just saying, there's one peer-reviewed article that I helped that study that I helped do that I have gotten credit for, but I didn't actually write the article, so I'm not an author on it, but I got credited for it in the paper.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, it's funny. So Yeah, but otherwise, I do plan on the dissertation will be published by the university, of course, and then I am planning on with my advisor's assistance breaking down that into a peer-reviewed article that I would submit to a journal. Um,
Oh, great.
hopefully in the next couple of years, so
All right.
so hopefully I can get my name on a peer reviewed paper or actually get my name on one. So
Yay! That's great. That's great. We
yeah.
have a question from Costly. I'd like to ask Nick, how long do you think the world will put up with this bullshit?
Uh,
Oh, can you
what are they
imagine?
referring to? Yeah,
All the
climate
bullshit.
change,
Well, no,
wars,
I
Trump.
think putting up with, yeah, maybe this
Yeah,
administration. Maybe.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now we have him. He's talking about, oh, he has to decide who runs Iran, and then Cuba's next on the hit list.
No. Yeah, the anti-war president. All right. All right, let's see here. Will the center of cold moving to Greenland put Europe in the path of storms that will typically follow? Will these storms follow, you think, if the cold.
Yeah, I've heard. I know Paul Beckwith has talked about this too. The idea that the sort of the polar vortex might shift more over Greenland just because of the changes in the jet stream, and you might end up with storm tracks, impacting Europe more often. And I know James Hansen in his paper like a decade ago talking about sea level rise and superstorms and stuff like that. He talked about um, how in the Atlantic there were like ancient history of like huge storms.
Mm-hmm.
Just extremely violent storms that were created from intense temperature contrast between the tropics and the Arctic, and so that temperature contrast would when you lose sea ice in the in the Arctic Ocean warms would diminish, except near Greenland, where you'd have cold water pouring out of Greenland, so it cools the ocean south of Greenland. And in fact, that's happening. Like there are parts of the of the North Atlantic near Greenland are have not warmed barely at all compared to the rest of the Atlantic Ocean. So you get this huge temperature contrast, this oceanic
Wow.
temperature contrast,
Yeah.
and then that translates to an increased temperature contrast in the atmosphere. It's called baroclinic instability is the fancy term for it. And
Bar
so
clinic.
basically
Bar clinic
instability. Yeah,
instability. Okay.
yeah. So basically, it's a strong temperature contrast, and so that can allow powerful storms to develop because the storms are a mixing. The storms are designed to mix and get rid of that instability in the atmosphere. And so you can end up with very intense storms with high waves, damaging waves, huge, winds and other things. So
Oh boy.
yeah.
Okay, let's see. How about this? Is it too early to think about what all the sustained bombing will do to global temperatures and climate? No, we have to think about it. It's going to be, I think, more, in my opinion. I mean, the bombing is horrible, and it does. It adds, but you think about that. It adds all that dirt, all that particulate matter into the atmosphere. Now, couldn't that have a cooling effect if it's like aerosols,
Well,
or
that
I don't
I mean
know?
that I mean it'd have to be
A lot of it.
yeah, a lot of it. I mean nuclear war would do it,
Oh,
because
just
nuclear
let's
war,
talk about
yeah, you
nuclear
would have
war.
yeah,
Oh God.
you'd have massive fires that put in tons of particulate matter in the atmosphere and cool the
Yeah.
planet. That's why they talk about nuclear winter. It's the nuclear
Right.
winter is the fires caused by the explosions that
Oh.
burn and throw all the particulate matter and dust into the atmosphere. So yeah,
Okay.
there's a way to cool the planet if you want to just nuke each other.
Thank you. Yeah, we love that. How long? How about this? Hello, Rondell. How will the Southwest deal with the long-term drought conditions?
Um, I don't know if there is a way to deal with it. I mean, it's one of the issues is certain parts of the planet are just going to get drier because of climate change, and drier and hotter, and the Southwest and Northwest northern Mexico seem primed to face very, very dry, arid, increasingly more arid conditions because of climate change. um, I mean, there will be swings where, like California in particular, is dealing with huge years of drought and then big swings back to wetness, and then the vegetation grows back, and then you get massive fires, and
Mm-hmm.
then it dries out again. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of the reality of the situation. I know that there's a lot of increasing problems between the governments in the Southwest, like Arizona, Colorado.
The Colorado River,
Yeah, the Colorado
the
River, right?
waters. It's
Yeah.
just insane. My nose look red. I feel so red tonight. Like I have high blood pressure from the I don't have high blood pressure from the conversation, and I looked at the screen. I'm like, I look like I got this red nose tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, I was telling you I was dealing with a lingering cold, and
Mine's not that. I have the fan on in here. It was warm. I literally have my
Mhm.
wood stove on out there and the fan on in here. Okay, let's see. We have some more. Uh, let's see. Okay, let me go to. Hello, sweetie. I think a slowdown in AMOC will increase temps along U.S. Atlantic coastline, including the Northeast. The heat energy has to go somewhere. Thoughts? Look for rapid solar. Oh,
uh,
SLR.
sea level
Yeah,
rise.
sea
Yeah,
level rise, not solar. Sea
yeah.
level rise. Sea level rise there. What do you think?
Well,
Mm.
from what I've heard about the AMOC, I think, and obviously Jim would be the biggest expert on this, but from what I've understood from the AMOC is that it would cause greater warming in the tropics, just because the heat transport's being reduced going northward. So you see the cooling in the northern latitudes, particularly in the northeast U.S. and then in Europe. Um, but the sea level rise thing, that's definitely real for
Oh yeah.
the Atlantic coast.
It's been
That would
it's
be
been
dramatic. Yeah,
yeah, and that
yeah,
there was something on that this week. Another paper. I was
yeah,
going to pull it up, but I thought no, too much. I even thought about having Jim in tonight, but I never got around to writing to him. We'll have to do another state of the planet and see if we can get Jennifer to come back.
yeah,
For a state of the planet. Wouldn't that be nice? It would
yeah.
be. Okay, so let's see. We've got, oh, here's one. Oh, very important. Joint pipe, dab, or vape. Leave it to Groove Dragon. Now, first of all, I don't do any of it anymore because I don't even need to be high. I know a lot of people are probably saying we got to, because everything's so fucked up, you know, everything's so fucked up in this world, let's get ourselves whatever. And I'm like, have gone the opposite way.
Well, I'm in a border city across from Minnesota where you can get any of that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, here too. Here too. All right, let's see. Okay, Matt wants to know why so few hurricanes last year. We got lucky
So,
in the United States. My mother got
yeah,
lucky
I
in
mean,
Florida.
yeah, I mean, there weren't like a huge number of storms from what I remember, but of course there were some big ones. I mean, hurricane. I just saw the report, the tropical cyclone report from the National Hurricane Center on Hurricane Melissa. Um, that in Hurricane Melissa that struck Jamaica, um, last fall, and it ended up
Yeah.
being tied the record for the most powerful
Oh.
hurricane on record in the Atlantic Basin by maximum sustained winds. It
Oh
had a maximum
shit.
sustained maximum sustained winds of 190.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
190
tough.
miles per hour, and it hit Jamaica with winds of 185. So
That's yeah, I remember it. That's
yeah,
heavy. We were so worried about all the people there.
yeah, yeah. I think there were like
Made me
45 deaths
worry
in
about.
Jamaica. Yeah, which I mean, it could have been in 100 years ago. That storm probably would have killed hundreds to thousands of people in Jamaica. And,
They've
uh,
strengthened.
yeah. So I mean, there's definitely um, the forecasting skill, disaster management skills, things that have come in handy in the past, developed in the past 40, 50 years, probably saved a lot of lives in Jamaica, but obviously there was still a lot of loss of life in Jamaica. So,
Right. Okay. Let's see. Are there any cities not out of water? Also, Beckwith found a new paper saying sea level rise is being dramatically under. That's the paper I was talking about, Nadia. Is being dramatically underestimated due to using model
models instead of
instead of
measurement.
yeah. That'll
Yeah, I
be
heard
a
about that
Jim one.
too.
Uh,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
maybe Jim did a video on his channel. You guys got to check out Jim's channel more often because he does these. He covers like all these goofy papers also. That's the one I was talking about, Nadia.
Mhm.
Let's see what else. Does anybody have a choice? Well, we'll ask you. Do you have a choice of a flush of the day? We have to do the environmental coffee house flush of the day. What would be your choice, and
I
who?
don't
Come
know.
on,
I
who
mean,
would you?
it's Trump's war. That's not a war, according to Speaker Johnson. He came out today and was like, "This is not a war.
Of
This is
course
a
not.
targeted, limited operation."
Yeah,
It's been like a week, and then we've
idiots.
like bombed a school, and and carpet bombed Tehran, and it's just
I
like,
know.
yeah, it's not a war
All
though.
right, all right, all right. Well, we're gonna flush the war.
Hmm.
Oh, we could probably flush a whole lot more. I mean,
Yeah,
we could flush so many things. Shit, all night long we would be flushing. Everybody loves the flush. Everybody here
yeah.
loves the flush. I sometimes, aw, honey, you need to flush the brain from all the negativity. I'm thinking of having Carolyn come back, Carolyn Baker, for a little therapeutic show. I think we all
Mhm.
probably need it soon. I think we need to have our Carolyn and possibly Karen, uh, yeah, post collapse acceptance
Yeah,
people and
yeah,
all those things happening because there's so much happening. So
yeah.
much happening. Where are the sewers backing up? I don't know what he's talking about. Okay, well, I don't think I have. Okay, I can see Trump going nuclear in Iran. Look, we're all thinking that same thing as he go because
Yeah,
he's sick, and as he goes out, I keep thinking of him, his face riding that bomb, the bomb, just
yeah,
riding it, going okay, just so we could see what it's like. It's really sick. It's really really sick.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
so I do think that we covered most of everything. And I know you had been
yeah.
sick, and we're an hour and 8 minutes. And anybody else have anything out there? Because if not, I'm going to hand it over to Nicholas to give us the parting on blue ocean event, El Nino, global heat. The whole thing. Go for it.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I could speak about global heat. I mean, climate change is continuing to accelerate. We're continuing to pour more carbon in the atmosphere. It's not, rocket science anymore. It's pretty easy to understand. And best I can hope for is that, people do what they can to not make the situation worse, and that includes our politicians, but yeah, right.
I know,
um,
right?
so yeah, so obviously we're all in it together, and we can be there for each other.
Carrie, you stay like that. You stay like that, sweetheart. All right. All right. Listen, thank you. I just want to tell everybody please like the show. Please subscribe to my other channel, Political Coffee House, because I'm switching up so we can do mainly climate and environmental things on this channel. Political Coffee House. Please, please, please go over there and subscribe. And I need watch hours. I'm working very hard on making videos over there. And I will be back Sunday morning for Pajama Sunday, 11 a.m. with Antonio Reed, and we will be talking about heavy subjects like we always do. Nicholas, thank you. Good luck with everything with your dissertation. We're very, very proud of you. Very proud of
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much, and I will see you on Sunday morning unless I decide to go live tomorrow evening on Political Coffee House, given that there's so much going on all the time. All right, what do we do? What do we say? Peace out, guys.
Peace.
Peace.